The metallic screech of the school gate locking echoes through my chest, a sound so final it feels like a judgment. I watch the last car, a cherry red minivan that isn't mine, disappear around the corner. They forgot to pick me up from school again, and this time, something inside me snaps like a brittle autumn leaf. It's not a loud break, not a shattering, but a quiet, definitive crack that changes the landscape of my insides. I'm Maya, 16 years old, though sometimes I feel like I'm carrying the weight of centuries. Maybe I am. I stand alone, the sprawling emptiness of Northwood High stretching out before me, a monument to my current abandonment. Mr. Henderson, the kindly old custodian with a limp and an even kinder smile, gives me a sympathetic look as he jiggles the keys in the massive gate lock. "Still here, Maya?" he asks, his voice gentle, like he's afraid I might crumble. I force a smile, a weak imitation of reassurance. "Just waiting for my ride. Running a little late, I guess." He nods, but his eyes tell me he knows. It's a small town. Gossip travels faster than the speed of text. And my family's forgetfulness is becoming legendary. He finishes locking up, the chains rattling with an air of finality. "Don't stay out too late, dear. Looks like rain." "I won't. Thanks, Mr. Henderson." He gives one last wave and shuffles towards the staff parking lot, his figure receding into the gray afternoon. And then, I'm truly alone. This isn't a new feeling. It's the fourth time this month. The fourth time my parents, presumably wrapped up in the whirlwind that is my younger brother Jake's burgeoning soccer career, have simply overlooked me. An afterthought, a detail missed on their overstuffed mental checklist. The first time, there was a frantic flurry of apologies, a rushed pizza dinner, and promises it wouldn't happen again. The second, excuses about traffic and a mixed-up schedule. The third, a terse text message hours later. "So sorry, honey. Jake's game went into overtime. Can you get a ride with a friend?" I didn't have any friends who lived near the school. I walked the 2 miles home that day, a simmering resentment my only companion. Today I pull out my phone, the screen a cold, indifferent rectangle in my palm. I dial home. It rings, and rings, and rings. Voicemail. Of course, they're at Jake's regional championship tournament. I saw the garish banner they'd made, the cooler packed with orange slices and sports drinks, the excited gleam in their eyes this morning as they'd rushed out the door, calling over their shoulders, "Have a good day at school, Maya." A good day, right. As if on cue, the sky, which has been threatening all afternoon, finally opens up. Fat, cold drops begin to fall, splattering against the pavement, soaking through the thin fabric of my school uniform. The navy blue blazer feels like a lead weight, the plaid skirt instantly clammy against my skin. I should call Aunt Carol, or maybe even Mrs. Henderson, Mr. Henderson's wife, who's offered before. I should try my parents' cell phones again, leave a tearful, desperate message. That's what old Maya would have done, the Maya from before. But something is different now. That quiet snap inside me wasn't just frustration. It was a shift, a reclaiming. Instead of dialing for help, I do something else. I walk away from the school gate, away from the curb where I'm supposed to be waiting. Each step is deliberate, a counterpoint to the years of being left behind, of being secondary. A memory, sharp and chilling as the rain, slices through me. It's not a memory from this life, not really. It's from before. Another life, another set of parents, same old neglect. I'm smaller then, maybe 7 or 8, huddled in a doorway, rain lashing down just like this. I'd been forgotten at a park, waited for hours. No one came. The cold seeped into my bones, a deep, unrelenting chill. I remember the fever, the rattling cough, the blurry faces in a stark white room. Then, nothing. Just a fading awareness, a profound sense of being utterly, irrevocably alone. Pneumonia, they'd said later, a tragic accident. I died from neglect, from being forgotten. And then, I was here, reborn. With all the memories, all the pain, all the lessons of a life cut short. It's a heavy burden for a 16-year-old, this dual existence. For years, I've tried to understand it, to make sense of this second chance. I've tried to be the perfect daughter, the quiet, unassuming child, hoping that this time I'd be valued, remembered. Clearly, it hasn't worked. So today, I choose a different path. A quiet power move, a whisper of rebellion against the universe that seems determined to render me invisible. I slip my phone out of my pocket. My fingers, slick with rain, navigate to the settings, location services, off. A small click, a tiny icon disappearing from the top of the screen. A digital severing. If they do eventually remember me, if they do try to find me, they won't have the convenience of technology to ease their panic. The smell of wet concrete, sharp and earthy, fills my nostrils, mingling with the acrid tang of my own fear sweat. It's a primal scent, the smell of exposure, of vulnerability. But underneath it, there's something else too. A raw, unfamiliar thrill. The thrill of taking control, even if it's in this desperate, passive-aggressive way. The rain is coming down harder now, a relentless curtain obscuring the world. My hair is plastered to my forehead, my shoes squelch with every step. I pull the collar of my blazer tighter, a futile gesture against the deepening chill. I don't know where I'm going. I just know I can't stand at that gate a moment longer. I can't be the forgotten girl, waiting patiently for a rescue that might never come. Not again. A small, determined voice, the voice of that little girl who died alone in the cold, rises within me. It's strong now, no longer a whimper but a declaration. I whisper the words into the storm, the sounds swallowed by the wind and rain, but they resonate deep within my soul, a vow etched onto my reborn heart. This time, I say, my voice surprisingly steady despite the shiver that racks my body. I choose differently. And then, I turn the corner, disappearing into the gray, tumultuous embrace of the storm, leaving the empty school and the life of being forgotten behind me. For now, at least. The first step in a long, uncertain journey home, a journey that, I sense, will change everything. The echoes of their laughter as they celebrated some minor victory for Jake, oblivious to my absence, fuel a cold fire within me. This isn't just about being picked up from school, it's about being seen, truly seen for the first time in 2 lifetimes. The wind howls, mirroring the tempest in my own heart. The rain is a relentless companion as I trudge through the streets, each step taking me further from Northwood High and, in a strange way, closer to a version of myself I'm only just beginning to recognize. My thin school shoes are soaked through, offering no protection against the puddles that seem to swallow the cracked sidewalks. The chill isn't just in my bones anymore. It's a living thing, coiling in my stomach, tightening my chest. But alongside the cold, there's a stubborn heat rage. Pure, unadulterated rage. It's a rage born from 2 lifetimes of being an afterthought. My mind flashes back unbidden to that other life. The one where I was Lily. Lily, who loved strawberry ice cream and catching tadpoles in the creek behind her rickety old house. Lily, whose parents were always too busy, too distracted, too something. They weren't cruel, not in the way people imagine monsters to be. They were just absent. Emotionally, physically. Forgetting me at the park was just one incident in a long line of casual abandonments. I remember that day with a clarity that still steals my breath. The bright red swing I'd been playing on. The way the sun felt warm on my face before the clouds rolled in. Then the rain, sudden and hard. I'd huddled under the little wooden roof of the picnic shelter, watching other parents scoop up their children, their laughter echoing as they ran for their cars. I waited. The park emptied. The light faded. The rain never stopped. The details of what came after are hazy, dreamlike. A policeman finding me, shivering and delirious. The harsh lights of the hospital. The suffocating feeling in my chest. And then, that final terrifying descent into darkness, the overwhelming certainty that no one was coming for me, that I was truly, utterly alone. I died of pneumonia at the age of 7, a small, forgotten casualty of parental neglect. Now, reborn as Maya, with Lily's memories seared into my soul, I walk through a similar storm, a chilling echo of the past. But this time, I'm not 7. I'm 16. And this time, I'm not just a victim of circumstance. This time, I have a choice. This time, I'm determined to make them understand, to make them feel even a fraction of the desolation that has been my constant companion across 2 lives. The thought of my parents, probably still cheering for Jake, oblivious to my plight, sends another wave of fury through me. How could they be so careless, so wrapped up in his achievements that they could simply forget their daughter exists? It's a pattern. Jake's first steps, Jake's first words, Jake's school plays, Jake's science fairs, Jake's soccer games. My own milestones were often met with distracted smiles or, worse, forgotten entirely. A tremor runs through me, a mixture of cold and a deep, resonating anger. I remember, with a sudden, visceral pang, watching my own funeral as Lily. An out-of-body experience, a dispassionate observer of my own small white coffin. My parents were there, of course. Their faces were etched with a kind of distant sadness, the polite grief of people who'd lost something they hadn't quite realized they possessed. There were tears, yes, but they were shallow, quickly dried. No gut-wrenching sobs, no soul-tearing anguish, just a quiet acceptance. It was then, as a ghostly spectator, that I understood the true depth of their neglect. They hadn't hated me, they'd simply not seen me. The wind whips my hair across my face, stinging my eyes. I need to find shelter. The rain is turning icy, and the initial adrenaline rush is fading, leaving behind a gnawing weariness. Up ahead, I spot the skeletal frame of an abandoned bus stop, its plastic roof cracked and grimy, but offering at least a sliver of protection. I duck inside, collapsing onto the narrow, graffiti-scarred wooden bench. The musty smell of damp wood and stale cigarettes assaults my nostrils, a strange counterpoint to the clean, earthy scent of the rain-soaked world outside. My clothes cling to me like a second skin, and I can feel the cold seeping deeper, awakening those old, terrifying memories of Lily's final hours. I hug myself, trying to generate some warmth, my teeth chattering despite my resolve. It's in this miserable huddle that I overhear a snippet of conversation. Two older women, huddled under a large, shared umbrella, hurry past the bus stop. "Awful, isn't it?" one says, her voice tight with concern. "Poor girl, 16, they said, just vanished from the school." "Her parents must be frantic," the other replies, shaking her head. "Can't imagine what they're going through. Hope they find her soon, especially in this weather." My breath catches in my throat. They're talking about me. The news is already out. Faster than I expected. A small, dark part of me feels a flicker of satisfaction. They're worried. Good. A police car cruises slowly down the street, its headlights cutting through the gloom, blue and red lights silently strobing. My instinct, honed by years of wanting to be found, to be rescued, is to jump up, to wave my arms, to signal for help. But this is new Maya, and new Maya deliberately stays put. I shrink back further into the shadows of the bus stop, pressing myself against the cold, damp wall. The cruiser passes by, its occupants oblivious to the missing girl huddled just feet away. Another quiet power move. I control when and if I'm found. The musty smell of the old bus stop bench, the dampness of my clothes clinging to my skin, the rhythmic drumming of rain on the cracked roof. It all grounds me in this strange, suspended moment. I'm cold, I'm scared, but I'm also resolved. My plan begins to form, a desperate, reckless strategy born from a lifetime of hurt. I'll stay missing. Not forever, not to the point of causing irreparable harm, but long enough. Long enough for them to feel the sharp, jagged edges of panic. Long enough for them to understand what it truly means to lose me. Long enough for them to finally see me. My phone, tucked away in the relatively dry inner pocket of my blazer, buzzes. Once, twice. A series of short, frantic vibrations against my ribs. I don't need to look to know who it is. The first frantic calls from my mother, the realization, dawning too late, that her daughter isn't where she's supposed to be. A grim smile touches my lips. Let it buzz. Let them panic. Let them wonder. The storm rages on, both outside and within me, but for the first time, I feel a flicker of something that isn't despair. It's a dangerous, fragile hope. The hope that this time, things will be different. Because this time, I'm making them different. From the relative concealment of the bus stop, now shrouded in the deepening twilight, I watch the world react to my absence. The occasional car still sloshes by, but now there's a different kind of vehicle appearing with increasing frequency. Police cruisers, their lights painting fleeting, urgent strokes of red and blue against the wet streets and darkened houses. Search cars, for me. A shiver traces its way down my spine, and it's not entirely from the cold. This is real. My decision, made in a moment of rain-soaked desperation, is having tangible consequences. The gnawing hunger that had been a dull ache is now a sharp demand. My meager school lunch, a squashed sandwich and a bruised apple eaten hours ago, is a distant memory. The birthday money tucked into my wallet, a crisp $20 bill from Aunt Carol, feels like a lifeline. I need warmth. I need to think. A few blocks away, the neon sign of a 24-hour diner, Rosie's, glows like a beacon in the gloom. It's an old-fashioned place, the kind that probably hasn't changed its decor since the 70s, but right now, it looks like sanctuary. Steeling myself, I slip out of the bus stop and make a dash for it, the rain still a steady, miserable drizzle. The bell above the diner door jingles merrily as I enter, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. Warm, food-scented air washes over me, a welcome embrace. Booths upholstered in cracked red vinyl line the walls, and the clatter of cutlery and low hum of conversation create a comforting background symphony. I slide into a booth near the back, hoping to remain inconspicuous. A waitress, her name tag reading Rosa, approaches. She's middle-aged, with kind eyes crinkled at the corners and a no-nonsense but gentle demeanor. "Coffee, hun?" she asks, her voice warm and slightly raspy. "Yes, please, and maybe a grilled cheese?" My voice is barely a whisper. She nods, her gaze lingering on my damp clothes and pale face for a fraction of a second too long. "Coming right up. You look like you've been through the ringer." I just offer a weak smile. If only she knew. As I sip the hot, strong coffee, a welcome jolt of warmth and energy, I can't help but overhear snippets of conversation from the nearby tables. The topic, it seems, is unanimous. "Heard it on the radio driving over," a trucker in the next booth rumbles to his companion. "Some teenager went missing from the high school this afternoon. Shame that." "Terrible," a woman at the counter says to Rosa, who's refilling her cup. "They've got an Amber Alert out for her now, you know. Just came across my phone." An Amber Alert for me. My heart begins to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. This is escalating far beyond what I'd envisioned. An Amber Alert means my face, my name, is being broadcast. It means the search is no longer just local, it's statewide. The magnitude of what I've set in motion crashes over me, a wave of nausea and a strange, perverse thrill. This is what it takes, then. This level of alarm. A flashback, sharp and unwanted, pierces through the diner's comforting hum. My past life. Lily. After days of my parents' vague reassurances that she's probably just staying with a friend, after their initial annoyance had morphed into a reluctant, low-grade concern, child services had finally stepped in. I remember the relief on their faces, barely concealed, when the responsibility was taken from their shoulders. Too little, too late. The damage was done. The neglect had already woven its fatal pattern. "Here you go, sweetie." Rosa places a plate with a perfectly golden grilled cheese sandwich and a small pile of pickles in front of me. The aroma of melted cheese and butter is heavenly. "Eat up. You need it." Her concern feels different. It's not the pitying glances I sometimes get from teachers or the forced cheerfulness of my own parents when they occasionally remember to pay attention to me. It feels genuine, maternal, even. A sensation so foreign it's almost uncomfortable. As I eat, trying to ignore the churning in my stomach that has little to do with hunger, I find myself talking to Rosa. Not about who I am, not about why I'm really here, but about feeling invisible, about being overlooked. The words tumble out, vague enough to protect my identity, but laden with the weight of my 2 lifetimes. "Sometimes," I say, staring into my coffee cup, "it feels like you could just disappear and no one would even notice for a while." Rosa pauses in wiping down the counter, her expression thoughtful. I think a lot of folks feel that way sometimes, honey, but someone always notices. Eventually. She looks at me pointedly. Someone always cares. Her words are a strange mix of comfort and accusation. She doesn't pry, though. She just offers a small, sympathetic smile and goes back to her work, leaving me with my thoughts and the growing unease. This quiet power move, confiding in a stranger, feels like a small crack of light in my self-imposed darkness. Rosa, without knowing it, has become an ally. The comforting sound of rain against the diner windows, a steady, rhythmic drumming, now mingles with the worried voices discussing my disappearance. It's a bizarre soundtrack to my internal conflict. Part of me wants to scream, "I'm here! I'm the girl you're talking about!" Another, stronger part, the part that remembers Lily, stays silent, watchful. Suddenly, a news bulletin flashes across the small television mounted in the corner of the diner. My school picture, a bland, awkward photo I've always hated, fills the screen. And then, him. My father, his face, usually composed, sometimes stern, is contorted in a way I've never seen. His eyes are red-rimmed, his voice choked with emotion as he pleads for my safe return. Tears stream down his face, genuine, unrestrained tears. The sight stops my breath. I've never seen my father cry, not once. Not when his own mother passed away. Not when Jake broke his arm. Never. The grilled cheese turns to ash in my mouth. The panic I wanted them to feel is real, devastatingly real. And seeing it reflected in my father's unfamiliar tears stirs something unexpected within me, a sharp, painful pang of guilt. Rosa, noticing my fixed gaze on the television, walks over. She glances at the screen, then back at me, her kind eyes searching mine. The unspoken question hangs heavy in the air. Before either of us can speak, she says softly, "You know, dear, I have a spare room. It's not much, but it's warm and dry. You look like you could use a safe place to rest for the night." Her offer, so simple, so unconditional, is overwhelming. A stranger, offering shelter to a girl who is, for all intents and purposes, a runaway. A girl who is causing her family unimaginable pain. The image of my father's tear-streaked face is burned into my mind. The Amber Alert. The police searches. This has gone further than I intended. Or has it? Isn't this what I wanted? For them to finally, truly feel my absence? The diner, once a sanctuary, now feels like a cage. The weight of my decision, the reality of their pain, presses down on me. The night I spend at Rosa's apartment is a blur of conflicting emotions. Her small two-bedroom place above a quiet bakery is a haven of warmth and the comforting aroma of old books and cinnamon. It's a stark contrast to the sterile, show-home perfection of my own house, a place that has always felt more like a magazine spread than a home. Rosa gives me a set of her daughter's old, soft pajamas. Her daughter, who, she vaguely mentions, lives far away now. She doesn't press me for details about myself, just offers me tea and a quiet, non-judgmental presence. I lie awake for hours in the spare room, curled under a hand-stitched quilt, wrestling with a potent cocktail of guilt, determination, and a burgeoning fear. The image of my father's tear-streaked face on the diner television plays on a loop in my mind. It was so raw, so undeniably real. And my mother, standing beside him, her usually impeccable composure shattered, her eyes wide with a terror I'd never witnessed. This wasn't the fleeting annoyance I was used to. This was genuine devastation. Is this what I wanted, to see them broken? A part of me, the Lily part, the child who died alone and unmourned, whispers, yes. Let them feel it. Let them understand. But another part, the Maya part, the 16-year-old who still, somewhere deep down, craves their love and approval, is horrified by the depth of their pain. Is it guilt I'm seeing in their eyes, or is it love? The distinction feels murky, lost in the storm of my own unresolved emotions. And then there's Jake. His face, glimpsed briefly in the news footage, was pale and pinched, his eyes darting around with a fear that mirrored my own hidden anxieties. He's only 10. He wouldn't understand the complex web of neglect and resentment that led to this. He would just know his big sister was gone, and it was scaring him. That thought is a heavy weight on my chest. Morning arrives with gray light filtering through the floral curtains. The smell of coffee and freshly baked bread from the bakery downstairs wafts into the room. Rosa is already up, moving quietly in the kitchen. The news is on again, a small television flickering in her cozy living room. Another press conference. My parents look even worse than they did last night. Exhausted, hollow-eyed. My mother's voice cracks as she pleads, "Maya, please, if you can hear this, just come home. We love you. We're so sorry." Sorry for what? I want to scream at the television. Sorry for forgetting me again? Or sorry you got caught being such terrible parents? The emotional climax I'd been orchestrating from afar hits me with the force of a physical blow. I break down. Sobs rack my body, deep, shuddering gasps for air. The carefully constructed walls of anger and resolve crumble, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. Rosa is there instantly, her arms around me, her worn, soft hand stroking my hair. "It's okay, honey," she murmurs. "It's okay to feel it all." When the storm of tears finally subsides, Rosa sits with me at her small kitchen table, a steaming mug of herbal tea in my trembling hands. "Maya," she says gently, her voice full of a sad understanding. "That's your name, isn't it? The girl on the television." There's no accusation in her tone, only a quiet certainty. I look at her, my eyes swollen, my defenses gone. There's no point in denying it. I nod, a fresh wave of tears threatening. This is it. The moment to retreat, to lie, to protect my desperate plan. But looking into Rosa's kind, knowing eyes, I do something unexpected. I choose to trust, completely. The words pour out of me, the whole incredible, unbelievable story. Not just about being forgotten, but about Lily. About dying. About being reborn with memories that aren't supposed to exist. About the crushing weight of being invisible twice over. I expect disbelief, maybe even fear. Instead, Rosa listens patiently, her gaze never wavering. When I'm finished, the small kitchen is silent, save for the ticking of an old clock on the wall. Then, Rosa takes my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "I believe you," she says, her voice soft but firm. And then she tells me about her own daughter, Sarah. Not far away, as she'd vaguely implied, but gone. Taken by a sudden illness years ago, an illness that might have been caught sooner, treated better, if Rosa hadn't been working 3 jobs. If she hadn't been too exhausted, too overwhelmed to notice the early signs. Her voice is thick with a grief that is still palpable, a mother's guilt that has never fully receded. "Neglect," she says, her eyes meeting mine, full of a shared, tragic understanding. "Comes in many forms, child. Sometimes it's malicious. Sometimes it's just the slow erosion of not paying attention. Either way, the outcome can be devastating." Her story, her belief, her shared pain is a balm to my wounded soul. The texture of Rosa's worn, calloused hands, as she holds mine, comforting me, is an anchor in the turbulent sea of my emotions. She doesn't condone what I've done, but she understands the desperation that drove me to it. "You've made your point, Maya," she says finally, her voice gentle but firm. "They're listening now. They see you. But you need to go back. Before this lesson causes damage that can't be undone." So she's right. I know she's right. The thought of facing them, of the inevitable explosion of emotions, is terrifying. But the thought of letting this drag on, of letting their fear and pain curdle into something uglier, is even worse. I've walked the tightrope of their panic. It's time to come down. As if on cue, the wail of police sirens cuts through the morning air, growing steadily closer. The search is intensifying, zeroing in. The ticking clock I set in motion is about to strike. I pull out my phone. The screen lights up, a stark reminder of the outside world. 47 missed calls, dozens of texts. From my parents, from Jake, from Aunt Carol, even from a few school acquaintances I barely knew. It's time. Time to face the family I tried to escape, the family I've dragged through a nightmare of my own making. Time to see if this desperate act has truly paved the way for change, or if I've simply shattered what little connection we had. Rosa gives my hand one last squeeze. You're stronger than you think, child. I hope she's right. With a deep breath, I prepare to step back into the storm. The walk from Rosa's quiet side street to my own neighborhood is like stepping from one world into another. The closer I get, the more the atmosphere changes. The normal Saturday morning hum of lawnmowers and distant children's laughter is replaced by an unnatural stillness, punctuated by the crackle of police radios and the hushed, anxious voices of onlookers. My street is a circus. Police cars, at least 3 of them, are parked haphazardly, their lights still flashing, casting an eerie glow even in the daylight. A couple of news vans, emblazoned with local station logos, are positioned strategically, cameras already pointed towards my house. Neighbors I've barely spoken to in years stand in small, solemn clusters on their lawns, their faces a mixture of concern and morbid curiosity. This is it, the culmination of my desperate gamble. As I turn the corner onto my driveway, a collective gasp seems to ripple through the assembled crowd. For a moment, everything freezes. Time seems to stretch, to hold its breath. Then, chaos erupts. A uniformed officer spots me first, his eyes widening. He speaks urgently into his shoulder radio. A photographer's flash goes off, momentarily blinding me. And then, my mother. She's standing on the porch, her face a mask of anguish. The moment she sees me, a sound escapes her, a raw, animalistic cry that's part relief, part fury, part utter desolation. She stumbles down the steps, her movements uncoordinated, her usually perfect hair wild around her face. She reaches me in a flurry of motion, her arms wrapping around me in a crushing embrace. "Maya! Oh God, Maya!" she sobs, her body trembling violently against mine. Her perfume, the expensive French scent she always wears, is overwhelming, cloying, mixed with the sharp, metallic scent of her anxiety sweat. It's a suffocating combination. She's screaming and embracing me simultaneously, a torrent of words pouring out. "Where were you? What happened? Are you hurt? We've been worried sick. How could you do this to us?" Her relief is palpable, but so is her rage. It's a confusing, overwhelming onslaught of emotion. Then my father is there, pushing past a police officer. He doesn't shout. He doesn't rage. He just breaks. His face, which had looked so anguished on the television, now seems to completely crumple. He reaches out, his hand trembling, and touches my cheek, as if to make sure I'm real. And then he sinks to his knees on the wet grass of our perfectly manicured lawn, his shoulders shaking, and sobs. Great, shuddering sobs that seem to be torn from the very depths of his soul. I never realized," he chokes out between gasps, "how invisible you were. How much I failed you." It's the most honest, most vulnerable admission I've ever heard from him. It cuts through my anger, my resentment, leaving behind a raw, aching confusion. Jake appears next, darting out from behind our father. His small face is streaked with tears, his eyes wide and terrified. He doesn't say anything. He just launches himself at me, his arms clinging tightly around my waist, his small body shaking. "I thought you were dead," he whispers into my still damp blazer, his voice muffled. "I thought you were never coming back." The weight of his fear, so pure, so innocent, is a crushing blow. This wasn't about him, but he's been caught in the crossfire of my desperate war. A policewoman, her expression firm but not unkind, gently separates us. "Maya, we need to ask you some questions. Can you tell us where you've been?" The officialdom of it, the calm, procedural questions amidst the emotional wreckage of my family, is jarring. I look at my parents, at Jake, at the concerned faces of the police officers, the curious eyes of the neighbors. I take a deep breath. This is my chance. Not to lie, not to make excuses, but to be heard, to finally truly be heard. I protect Rosa. I say I found shelter in an abandoned building, that I needed time to think. I don't mention her kindness, her sanctuary. That's a secret I'll keep, a small, precious gift. And then I turn to my parents. My voice is surprisingly calm, steady, imbued with the quiet power I've discovered within myself. "I needed you to understand," I say, my gaze meeting first my mother's, then my father's. "I needed you to know what it would feel like to lose me, to really, truly lose me. Because that's how I've felt. Lost. Forgotten." Their shock is palpable. This isn't the tearful, apologetic daughter they might have expected. This is someone new, someone with a voice, someone who is no longer willing to be invisible. An uncomfortable silence descends, broken only by my father's ragged breathing and my mother's quiet, hiccuping sobs. The overwhelming smell of my mother's perfume, now mingled with the damp earthiness of the lawn and the lingering scent of anxiety sweat from us all, is a sensory overload. It's the smell of crisis, of a family unit shattered and hopefully, painstakingly being pieced back together. I lay down my terms, not as demands, but as necessities. Family dinners, no phones at the table, shared responsibilities for household chores, not just mine by default, equal attention, equal consideration for both their children. We need to change, I say, my voice quiet but unyielding. All of us. My father, still on his knees, looks up at me, his face a mess of tears and dawning comprehension. The anger is gone, replaced by a profound, bewildered sorrow. How? He whispers, his voice raw. How did we fail you so badly, Maya? How did we not see? His question, so honest, so stripped of pretense, hangs in the air. It's not an accusation, but an opening, a painful, terrifying, necessary opening. The door to real change, or so I hope. The journey ahead is long, uncertain, but for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I feel like I'm finally standing on solid ground, even if it's ground I had to shatter to find. 2 weeks later, the landscape of the Harrison household has undergone a seismic shift. The immediate storm of my return has passed, leaving in its wake a fragile, tentative calm underscored by a new, almost palpable awareness. My parents walk on eggshells around me, not with fear, but with a kind of bewildered respect, as if seeing me for the Rorschach underscore inkblot underscore test dot CG underscore filmmakers underscore on underscore YouTube slash 00 underscore 01 underscore 02 underscore 15 dash dash 00 underscore 01 underscore 06 underscore 13 dot text. First time. The most visible change is the schedule. It's laminated, stuck to the refrigerator with a collection of novelty magnets Jake won at a school fair. Maya's pickup schedule. Detailed, color-coded with designated drivers for each day and contingency plans involving Aunt Carol. It's almost comically thorough, a testament to their newfound determination not to repeat their biggest mistake. Beyond that, there are family meetings. Every Sunday evening, we sit in the living room, no television, no phones, and we talk. Really talk. It's awkward sometimes, punctuated by long silences and hesitant apologies. But it's a start. My ultimatum, delivered in the raw aftermath of my return, had been clear. Family therapy, or I find a way to live with Aunt Carol. To their credit, they didn't argue. Our first session with Dr. Ramirez was stiff, uncomfortable, filled with my mother's defensive explanations and my father's quiet, shamefaced admissions. But Dr. Ramirez is good. She listens. She guides. She's slowly, painstakingly helping us unravel the tangled mess of our family dynamics. My friendship with Rosa is a quiet anchor in this new, turbulent reality. I visit her every week at the bakery beneath her apartment. She doesn't offer advice unless I ask. Just strong coffee, day-old pastries that still taste like heaven, and a listening ear that feels more genuinely maternal than anything I've ever known. She's become my confidant, the keeper of my reincarnation secret, a steady presence in a world that still feels slightly off-kilter. Emotional growth is a slow, arduous process. I'm learning to navigate the strange dichotomy of my existence, the ancient wisdom of Lily, the girl who saw too much, and the raw, teenage vulnerability of Maya, the girl who is still figuring things out. Some days the anger resurfaces, sharp and bitter. Other days, a surprising tenderness towards my flawed, fumbling parents catches me off guard. Jake has become my shadow, my self-appointed protector. He walks me to my classes, his small hand often slipping into mine. He asks endless questions about where I was, if I was scared. I tell him a sanitized version, protecting him from the full weight of my desperation, and from Rosa's involvement. He seems to understand, in his own 10-year-old way, that something fundamental has shifted, that his big sister is different now, stronger, sadder, maybe, but more present. The quiet power move that has brought me the most unexpected satisfaction is the support group. Inspired by Rosa's quiet strength and my own experiences, I started it at school. The Forgotten Kids Club, we call ourselves, half jokingly, though the pain behind the moniker is real. It's a small group, just a handful of us who've all, in our own ways, felt invisible, overlooked. We meet in the library during lunch, sharing stories, offering support. For the first time, I don't feel entirely alone in my experiences, even if they don't understand the reincarnation part. The biggest surprise comes a few weeks later. My school is putting on its annual spring play, a cheesy musical I'd auditioned for on a whim months ago, never expecting to get a part, let alone a small speaking role. In the past, my parents would have offered a distracted "break a leg, honey," and then promptly forgotten the date. This time, they're there, front row center. Jake is wedged between them, clutching a small, slightly squashed bouquet of carnations. When I step onto the stage, my heart pounding, my lines feeling clumsy and rehearsed, I see them. Really see them. And they see me. During my solo, a short, slightly off-key ballad, I catch my mother dabbing her eyes. My father is watching me with an intensity that's almost unnerving, a look of profound, sorrowful pride on his face. When the play ends, their applause is the loudest in the auditorium. The sound of it, genuine and enthusiastic, washes over me, a warmth that settles deep in my bones, a feeling I've craved for 2 lifetimes. The sound of genuine applause from my family fills me with a warmth I've never known. Later that night, after the awkward congratulations and Jake's enthusiastic, if slightly crushed, presentation of the carnations, I sit in my room, the scent of the flowers filling the air. I reflect on the strange, painful journey that brought me here. How the agony of Lily's forgotten life, her lonely death, had somehow, inexplicably, led to this moment, this breakthrough. Sometimes I realize you have to disappear to be truly seen. You have to scream in the silence to make them listen. A few days later, Rosa drops a bombshell of her own. She's found a new apartment, closer to us. "Thought an old lady could use a change of scenery," she says with a twinkle in her eye. "And maybe an unofficial granddaughter could use an unofficial grandmother figure a little closer by." The joy that blooms in my chest is immense, a pure, uncomplicated happiness. Found family, chosen connections. They are real. They are powerful. During our next family therapy session, my mother makes an admission that feels like a dam breaking. "I was so focused on Jake," she says, her voice thick with unshed tears, looking directly at me. His needs, his schedule, his future. He was always so demanding. And you, Maya, you were always so quiet, so self-sufficient. I forgot you had needs too. I forgot you needed me." It's not an excuse, it's a confession, a painful, honest truth. And in that moment, a tiny piece of the wall around my heart crumbles. The new beginnings are fragile, tentative, but they are real. We are all learning, all fumbling our way towards a new definition of family. Then, one evening, as I'm scrolling through homework assignments on my laptop, my phone buzzes. A text message from an unknown number. My blood runs cold. Is it a prank? A remnant of the Amber Alert fallout? I open it. Just a few words, words that send a jolt through my entire being, rearranging everything I thought I knew about my strange second existence. "I remember my past life too. We need to talk." The world tilts on its axis. I'm not the only one. The text message sits on my phone screen, stark and unbelievable. "I remember my past life too. We need to talk." For a moment, I just stare at it, my mind struggling to process the implications. All these years, I'd carried the burden of Lily's memories, the knowledge of my reincarnation, as a solitary secret, a unique and isolating phenomenon. The thought that someone else, somewhere out there, shared this extraordinary, bizarre experience was staggering. My fingers tremble as I type a reply. "Who is this?" The response is almost instantaneous. "My name is Alex. I'm a junior at Northwood. I saw the news about you, something about your story. It felt familiar. Can we meet?" Alex, a junior, at my school. This is too much. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Is this real, or some elaborate, cruel hoax? But what would be the point? We arranged to meet the next day after school at a small, quiet park a few blocks from Northwood High, a neutral territory, away from prying eyes and curious ears. The entire school day is a blur. I can barely concentrate on quadratic equations or the nuances of the French Revolution. Every unfamiliar face in the hallway seems like it could be Alex. When the final bell rings, I walk to the park, my stomach churning with a mixture of trepidation and a wild, desperate hope. What if this Alex is just messing with me? What if they're dangerous? But what if they're telling the truth? He's sitting on a park bench near the old oak tree we designated as our meeting spot. He looks ordinary. Brown hair, slightly too long bangs falling into his eyes. Jeans, a band t-shirt. He could be any guy at Northwood. He looks up as I approach, and his eyes, a surprisingly intense shade of green, meet mine. There's a flicker of something in them. Recognition. Understanding. Maya? He asks, his voice a little hesitant. Alex? We sit in silence for a moment, the unspoken question hanging heavy in the air. So, I begin, trying to keep my voice steady. You remember? He nods, a slow, deliberate movement. Everything. My name was Daniel. I was a firefighter. Died in a warehouse collapse about 20 years ago. He says it so calmly, so matter-of-factly, as if he's discussing the weather. The story tumbles out of him then, mirroring my own strange experience. The confusion of waking up as a baby with adult memories. The struggle to reconcile two identities. The loneliness of carrying such an extraordinary secret. His past life was different from Lily's, a life of service, of bravery, cut short by tragedy. But the core experience, the remembering, the feeling of being out of sync with the world is identical. As I listen, a profound sense of emotional catharsis washes over me. I'm not a freak. I'm not alone. This supernatural second chance, this strange quirk of fate, isn't unique to me. The relief is so immense, it almost brings me to tears. My past life, I tell him, my voice choked with emotion. I was a little girl. Lily, I died from neglect. His green eyes soften with an empathy that feels incredibly validating. He doesn't question. He doesn't doubt. He just understands. We talk for hours that afternoon, sharing stories, comparing experiences, the words flowing easily, a torrent of pent-up emotions and unspoken truths. We bond over the shared weirdness of it all, the bizarre feeling of being an old soul trapped in a teenage body, the acute awareness of life's fragility. What do we do with this? Alex asks finally, as the sun begins to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. This knowledge, this second chance. That's the question, isn't it? For me, Lily's painful past had fueled a desperate need for my current family to see me, to acknowledge my worth. And in a strange, convoluted way, it had worked. My family dynamic has undergone a complete metamorphosis. The weekly one-on-one time is now a fixture. My mother and I have discovered a shared love for terrible reality TV. My father, surprisingly, has started teaching me how to change the oil in his car, sharing stories about his own youth. Things I never knew. Jake and I have marathon video game sessions, his laughter echoing through the house, a sound that no longer feels like a spotlight stealing my share of attention, but a warm, inclusive melody. Inspired by Alex and by the tentative success of my own family's healing, an idea begins to form. Maybe, I say slowly, we help others, other forgotten children, before it's too late for them. Alex looks at me, a slow smile spreading across his face. I like the sound of that. The quiet power move that follows feels like the most natural thing in the world. Together, Alex and I expand the Forgotten Kids Club. We reach out, we listen, we share vague, non-reincarnation specific stories of our own, and then we orchestrate a meeting, not just for the kids, but for their families too. My parents, to my astonishment, volunteer to help facilitate these meetings. They share their own painful journey, their voices raw with honesty, their story a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope. It's a surreal experience watching them guide other families through the treacherous terrain of neglect and reconciliation. The smell of home-cooked family dinner, something that was a rarity in both Lily's life and Maya's early years, now fills our house regularly. It's the scent of togetherness, of effort, of love rekindled. Rosa is a frequent guest at these dinners, her laughter blending with Jake's, her quiet wisdom a comforting presence. She's no longer just my confidant. She's an integral part of our reshaped family, a chosen grandmother, a testament to the bonds forged in shared pain and unexpected kindness. During one such dinner, my father looks at me, his eyes filled with an emotion I can finally identify as pure, unadulterated love. You know, Maya, he says, his voice thick, you've taught me what being a parent really means. It's not just about providing, it's about being present, seeing, listening. His words are a balm to the old wounds, Lily's and mine. I realize then that sometimes being reborn isn't about getting a completely different life, a perfect life free of pain. Sometimes it's about having the courage, the strength, the sheer audacity to demand the life you deserve, to fight for it, to reshape it, piece by painful piece. I no longer need to disappear to matter. I've learned to make myself visible, not through desperate acts of rebellion, but through the quiet, steady power of my own voice, my own truth. And now, with Alex by my side, I'm no longer just fighting for myself. We're fighting for all the Lilies, all the forgotten children, hoping to rewrite their stories before they reach their tragic end. My journey, it seems, has come full circle. From a forgotten child dying alone in one life to a catalyst for change in another. The pain of the past has paved the way for a future filled with purpose, connection, and a hard-won, precious visibility.